garden couldn't be only nice in summer, it needs to be nice all year round. My name is Piet Ouderhoff. In the year 2000, together with Gustafsson, Guthrie and Nichols, we got a question if we could participate in a competition for the Millennium Park, for this area, now called the Loery Garden. We won the competition, and this was one of my first commissions in the US, and one of the biggest. So where to start and where to end? Now, the moment I knew that we were going to do the garden, I traveled many times to this region, the Midwest, and went into the wild, so to say. So we went into prairies and wild areas where we could feel and see the plants in their natural condition, how they grew. Within the design and the master plan there was a narrative, a story about how different areas should look like. The prairie part of this garden, I think that was something I had never done before. But it feels so natural, it feels like a meadow at the same time, or a meadow in the city. So it has a lot of similarity with its surroundings, but also a lot of contrast with the surrounding. But maybe that is the balance. You create a rough idea of what you intend to do with your planting plan or planting design. And with the architect, the landscape architects, together you create a sort of mood in that particular area. I start with putting a plant list together, and with those plants you create a garden. And this garden, it has a river of salvias, the blue and the purples in June. This is a sort of very sophisticated meadow, in contrast with the other meadow on the other side of the garden, which is more based on an idea of the prairies. In that area we use a lot of native plants that grow wild and people probably never had seen in gardens. So we introduced a sort of native meadow, but in a way that people could understand it. So we emphasized on the aesthetics of meadows. So we made a selection of good prairie plants and put things together so that it would work on people's senses and they would recognize the beauty of their own native plants. And in fact, if you look around, you see a Baptisia, purple smoke. They are smoke blue, smoke purple. The flowers are like lupins. Also necessary to keep your eye going through the garden. This is a Nepeta, Nepeta Walker's Low. Catmint is another name. A long flowering period. Even on the top of the flowering period you can cut it back and it will rebloom. Prairie smoke. This is Geum triflorum, let's say low plant for the front of your border. Beautiful low flowering. It's a native Golden Alexanders. Cisia aurea, another native, a nice umbellifer, umbel-shaped flower. In contrast with grasses, it looks very fine and neat. Allium Christophii, it's an onion, a bulb that mixes very well with your other perennials in the garden. Baptisia leucantha, wild indigo, it's a real prairie plant. And that's why it's here in this meadow area of the Loery Garden. So that was another little story we built in the design. And then the transition area was an area that separated more or less the dark plate where the trees and the underplanting is. So the transition area consists out of groups of taller plants. This is Persicaria polymorpha. It's a very tall plant with bunches of white little flowers in big plume-form panicles. It's a very ornamental plant. Penstemon Husker's Red, together with Geranium Max Fry. You see the one supports the other. It's a good show of how plants work together. Kilenia trifoliata, very good cut flower. You can put it in a vase and it will stand for 14 days. Also a good plant for half shade. I think the garden contributes very much to the people that come to the Millennium Park. You know, working in the context of let's say Renzo Piano or Burnham or the city itself, I feel it as a gift that you can add something to it. As long as you can add to whatever surrounds you, then it's good. If you add in a positive way, it's still one of these sort of jewels in the crown of Millennium Park. I think I see Monarda bradburyianum. It's a Monarda, it's a bee balm. It's also a native. And you see how beautiful it looks. It's a bee attractor. Flowers early in the season, not too tall, good garden plant too. Papaver Scarlet O'Hara, it's a fresh, brilliant color for the spring garden. And after flowering, they disappear and pop up next year again. Then there's Amsonia sadicifolia. There's also star-like flowers. Look beautiful from a distance. They're very dominant in shape. But plant selection is based on plants that perform well through the years. So that plants live long and perform well and don't overgrow themselves. So sustainability is too much a word that people talk about. I go for durability, that plants perform over a long period, looking good through the seasons, coming back every year. That for me is more important. You don't have to fertilize. There's a lot of wildlife, birds, insects, bees, butterflies. If you can reach that with your planting, I think you cannot go for more. And it attracts a lot of people, not only insects. Gardening is a long-term vision. You start something that you put in now, but it should be there still in 10, 15 years' time. Looking and sitting here, I think it's getting into you. That is, I think, the importance of a good planting, or whatever you do in art or anything in life. If it's good, it sticks with you. So that is what the Lourdes Garden did to me. It created a moment in my life that I stepped over a threshold, came into another idea of design. For sure it has affected my work and it has done a lot of good in my personal experience. What you try to do with gardens to touch people's emotions. And think, and the more mature it becomes, it's more like people, if they become mature, they're more in for love. So it is what a garden does to you.